Hi, everybody. This is Giegerich and Shaili Modi on the ProjectReady Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how the importance of search for the AEC industry, why it matters, and what you can achieve with search, and how do you optimize that. In previous podcasts, we had what was it? Navigating the challenges of the IT pro, and our 2023 year in review. And upcoming is what is program management in the AEC. And then we have a two-part series. Expect to have a couple of guests on the panel around data warehouses. So again, much ballyhooed. Everybody talks about a data warehouse. We had done a podcast around garbage in, garbage out. AI is only as good, analytics is only as good as your data set, right? So we're going to explore what exactly is a data warehouse. There's a lot of kind of know what it is, but you want to give some firm definition around that. And moreover, what's its importance in the AEC and what can you do with it? So let's begin with why search is such a challenge and just start getting into today's podcast. So, one of the things that really makes search particularly painful in the AEC is stuff is everywhere, right? And there's stuff across the project's ecosystem that has to be searched for. So, just the very basis of going in and out of those systems, looking for a document, and sometimes not in context, right? And right. So that's what we're going to begin with. And so, what do you see as challenges, Shayla?
Going to the main challenge for search is just quickly getting to the data that the users need. And I believe that the way the data is in a lot of different systems, in a lot of different projects, and even how it is maintained, because we've seen so many clients who just kind of have Excel files with list of documents that have gone out. There's no way to search within those files, and then there is no proper way to kind of manage if you're trying to look for a status of a document, as an example, which might be in Autodesk or Procore or SharePoint, and a variety of different systems that users use to quickly just kind of look for that data in context of a workflow or a transaction that's happening. And across projects, across systems, I think that that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, you need context, right? The
Mm.
context of the project, the context of what that asset or bit of information represents, right? And where
Mhm.
and why. And that's one of the things that we do is our search is all transactionally based, right? So anything that goes through our system, we know why that bit of data or that document was being reviewed and what its purpose was. And again, this is no small challenge for the AEC. I mean, 175 zettabytes, 177 billion terabytes of data is going to be floating around within the coming year or so across the built world. And that volume of data just keeps growing exponentially. It doubled in the last 3 years. And most of the industry doesn't even use 95% of that data. And I think, again, it really comes down to finding stuff. And when you think about search and finding things, um, are really literally the same thing, right? You're trying to find something about something is what search is about. But with that volume of data and just being sort of dropped into places, why we're doing the data warehouse podcast, that also represents a challenge. So part of this is the interoperability. Yeah, Shaylee?
Mhm. And yeah, as you mentioned, for the data warehouse, that is kind of the backbone that would make the search functionality that much easier and better to manage, because um, yeah, it's a combination of everything: interoperability, security, governance, because we need to make sure that the users, when they search, they would only see the data and the content that is security trimmed, that they would have access to. There are a lot of these different factors in place when you think about giving that functionality for end users to search the content across projects and systems.
Yeah, it's a complete time burn. You just throw away one of the stats that we float about. It's like $1.6 trillion a year in inefficiency in
Mhm.
context of things like this. So if you can clip even a small percent of that, that is a lot of return on investment, and it really helps drive margins. This is an industry that's notoriously tight on margins. One of the reasons why is it just takes you too long to make sense of everything that's moving around and in flight.
mm.
The other thing that, going it all does connect, right? Garbage in, garbage out, data warehouses, search, reporting, they're all dependent upon, integrity of data and the ability to unify it. So, what are some of the challenges in just unifying that data?
Yeah, I would think the biggest challenge is just that there's no consistency. The data is like in different systems, different formats, different metadata properties. To even if you're looking for a document, you have to first figure out what system is it in. So you're logging into multiple systems, you're going to different projects and different systems. Although they are all connected to the same project, it's still a lot of different systems to kind of just browse through. And then even within a project, taking like Autodesk or Procore as an example, there are a lot of folders and subfolders, um, to just kind of browse through all of these different repositories and systems to see what you're looking for. There's no consistent search in Procore or Autodesk to kind of search across projects. So if you put some, you have to go to an actual project to find data. So that's also a problem because then you're going to so many different projects and it's a lot of time suck to just getting there and then searching for data.
Yeah, and then basically brute force dumpster diving, right?
Mhm.
Searching should not be clicking through folders and hoping to find something.
Mhm.
It's actually one of the big problems with folders in general. The industry is far too fond of nested, folders, which I think exacerbates the issue personally. I mean, on the Microsoft side, you have libraries, and we talk to people and help them when we, start engaging a client to try to organize that information a bit more. But yeah, just searching is not logging into some place, traversing to a project, and then starting to click around.
Mhm.
And now, also, I just want to be clear. I mean, question as much as anything else. The Autodesk, certainly my M365,
Mm.
Procore, they have their own search capabilities. Yes.
Yes, yes. I think it's more at a project level once you are in a project, and even within a project, it is then more at a functionality level. Let's take submittal as an example. In Procore, you would actually have to go to that project, go to the submittals module, and then you can search within that. But let's say in context of an entire project where you have SharePoint and Autodesk and Procore, and you're just I'm looking for a submittal, which could have been a submittal or an approval. Just like that kind of a transactional search is not really available, where across workflows, across systems, we could search something. Of course,
Yeah, and
there's
then
search available, but yeah, it's very, you have to kind of get to the right place to then be able to search.
right, and again, the challenge with search in the AEC is you'll have more than one Procore instance on a project, right? You'll have
Mm,
more than one Autodesk one, which we do solve for with program management, but that's an exponential, um, impact on the ability to search intelligently.
mm, mm.
Another thing that we do also is we have this concept of master metadata. So metadata is everything, and so any amount of consistency you can get in metadata across these systems, greatly at least helps you in that cause. If you know everything is at least associated with a project ID, at least associated with some sort of transaction, like a workflow. To your point, Shayla, that really starts to narrow and improve, what that search would be and what you can, get from that kind of query.
Yeah, definitely. I think metadata is essential, and as you mentioned, Joe, we have metadata that we can tag at a project level, at the task level, document level, and all of these together would definitely optimize it a lot. I'm looking for a specific project with a specific metadata. And then within that, I'm looking for a metadata for documents, tasks, all of that just kind of narrows it down a lot. And I think it's important to have that set up. Doesn't matter where the workflows or documents live in what system. Um, they would be tagged properly, basically with the correct metadata, and it'll make the search much better that way.
Yeah, your project isn't a platform, right?
Mm.
Your project is information from multiple platforms and multiple stakeholders. And I think that again is that big challenge of searching for stuff. And that's the other thing that we do very uniquely. Let me take a step back. So when we speak to clients, and we've been learning from the industry for a long time before we even started this product. There's no plan generally at the beginning for how you're going to bring information together. In other words, what is your strategy as it relates to at some point I may have to add information from other people's systems, for instance? We're proactive in that approach. We believe that from the beginning, we believe it's our platform to bring all that stuff together, but you need some approach. You need some sort of data plan that goes, okay, this is how we'll at least orchestrate the relationships of data. Like one of the things that we do on the automation of building out a project is we pull in metadata from, say, an ERP system or a CRM. And when you roll out Procore, ACC, M365, they're all using the exact same bit of metadata. And people go, oh, that's great. It's really quick. You handle security dynamically in M365. But really, the power of that, starting with metadata from the bottom line application, right? Accounting is your bottom line data set. It's what you invoice against, it's what you get paid against. So just starting with that goes a long way to doing, satisfying search. And that's where we start building out a data warehouse. You can start bringing in additional information that continues to feed the efficacy of that search. So it's the context of what you're looking for, and whenever and wherever you can get closer to the same descriptors, metadata. Anything you would add to that, Shaylee?
No, I think definitely getting that set up initially is important. And then, yeah, the way it kind of tags automatically based off of workflows of project data can be kind of connected to other systems as well. If you're pulling in information from, let's say, CRM or a financial system, there are a lot of data points that kind of come in with that. And if all of that is tagged automatically, which then ties into all the different workflows that happen on the project, I think that would significantly optimize search for sure.
And a request we'll get every so often is, can you search specifically Procore, specifically ACC, or
Mm.
pick up a Microsoft search, right? Inside its stack, principally SharePoint. With that, we search transactionally, anything goes through us, all that great stuff. But on the roadmap of the future of search, where you see it going, do you see more and more of the of APIs becoming available where we can even extend search further?
I haven't really seen many search specific APIs, honestly. Microsoft does have them, but there are again APIs for each functionality within different features and workflows. But I haven't really seen any APIs for these other Autodesk, Procore, and the other systems that we connect to just have that search API where if we put in keyword or basically a search keyword and try to get all the different things around that keyword. I haven't seen any APIs around that yet. And I think it's just how the systems are built where they don't, even internally, they don't have that kind of a high level search within projects, is where it's available right now.
Yeah, and for all the AI is everything in a slice, sliced bread. eh, I'm still hung up on the garbage in, garbage out part, right? So search is going to look at the same data set as AI is, as predictive analytics will. So if you don't have search really going on, it sort of begs the question of what data again are you going to chew on? I would be surprised though if over time these folks, these other CDEs, start to offer more access to it. But it says something. I'm not quite sure,
Hmm.
but the fact that there aren't even APIs to hit that search, and I guess the moral of the story is you're stuck with us for now because we do search across those platforms.
Yeah, I think,
But yeah, I was curious
yeah,
about that.
Autodesk has started this hub level or even across hubs reporting for now. So I think that that's like a first step where reporting kind of then feeds into search, so you can create reports and then see the data that you want across projects and such. But there's a lot of kind of manual building for that. You have to manually actually build a report if you want to see submittals across projects. But then reporting kind of leads into search, so I'm thinking they are,
Yeah, it's the same
yeah,
thing to me.
heading in that direction, but still.
Yeah, a report is a dynamic search
Hmm,
query,
hmm.
right? It's get me this, this, and this, and then times two minus one, and oh, here's your data, right?
Mm.
It's a convoluted search with a visual
Yep,
representation.
yep.
That I don't know if there's a heck of a lot else to say about search. I mean, we all know it's important, but those challenges are really what is soul sucking for the industry. Any advice you would have for folks out there, if regardless of what we do?
No, I think it's just even regardless of what we do, if users for now they would start tagging the content properly, making sure wherever possible they have metadata properties set, and each system has its own separate functionality. Like in SharePoint, we recommend using content types which help with search. And so essentially, all of that helps with having filters where you can quickly get to the data. So, and as you keep mentioning, garbage in, garbage out, that's what it comes down to. That if the data is organized properly, tagged with the correct metadata, it's in the correct places, it just makes it that much easier.
And I understand, it's interesting. Small institutions go, well, there aren't that many of us. And so they kind of resist standards. And you get to larger institutions, there are so many cooks in the kitchen, nobody knows what's for dessert. Right. And that challenge of having consistent nomenclature and the like is remarkably not that prevalent in terms of what we've seen so far, I would argue. I mean, everybody very commonly, and going back to the day, you would have a new project, you'd have a batch script, it would set up the file folder hierarchy on your local servers. But since everybody started moving to the cloud, for one, there's no batch file to do that. I mean, essentially, it's what we do with SharePoint, but the on premise thing is just sort of dead on arrival, right? If you're trying to move off of on premise stuff. So going into the cloud and just merely moving over file folder systems and having no governance over that is one of the big challenges. Metadata is not 12 folders deep with a long paragraph for a name. It's actually part of the problem. So that's a big piece of advice that I give to folks is just be wary of too many folders. And again, it's that consistency of metadata. If as a company or a group or a division, you can at least come to some sort of agreement as to, okay, everything has to have at least these five. And also, frankly, to rein in end users, right? There's a balance between empowering the end user and letting them run amok. And so that goes back to that governance component as well and security. You agree with that?
Yeah, definitely agreed with that.
I guess the last thing on search that we really should talk about because it does come up a lot because AI has, last year was the year of AI. I'm curious to see how the stock market is going to go this year because tech apparently moved way up again. So who knows? Tends to be a bit more volatile. And so, AI proponents will go on and going, well, with natural language translation, we don't need to structure our data. I don't believe that purely and simply because the one thing I like to point out on that is then why does Chat GPT give you a report on Mary Poppins that makes her a stormtrooper? It's just like, they just pull information together and it does its best.
Mhm.
But I mean, on that basis, what's your view of just AI being able to sort of indiscriminately make sense of information, uh, regardless of having to do some formal orchestration of descriptor and
Yeah,
hierarchy?
I think it's in some places definitely very powerful to make predictions. That's where I see, at least in the context of AEC industries, to have the maximum benefit of AI, looking at the previous projects and previous trends of how long does it take for this team to complete RFIs, who has the most overdue tasks and
And what would be the
workflows, and
impact of the
how it's
budget?
going to
Right.
impact to kind of study those trends and predict how the project is going. I think it's going to be very powerful once the correct data kind of goes in there. In terms of what we are talking about with searching, I think it's just with the data that generally resides in AEC. I don't think it's going to be there anytime soon where it can just automatically interpret a lot of these data points. There is a concept of automatic metadata tagging and such that we can use for sure. That's where we can use AI based on some
Agreed.
logic, like who is uploading, where the data stays. We can tag documents automatically, and then that can definitely. So there are definitely ways we can use it in our benefit to make that better, where it's automatically tagged with metadata and things like that to then organize data properly for sure.
Yeah, that is a good point because AI should be able to
Mhm.
predict. It should be able to tell you what that asset is just by reading through it on some
Yeah,
level. But
yeah.
even there, for that to work, I would argue that there has to be a consistency of the structure of those documents. I'm very document centric. It's just
Mhm.
my whole life I've been focused on documents. But I think even that is an issue because again, just trying to recall here, depending on where it is and what's in it and who did it, yes, you can do something at least to proactively apply meta descriptors. And I guess the final thing I would say about AI is I am not poo-pooing it. I'm not a critic of it. I just think that its immediate impact has been more sold for investors, if you will, than it has in potential to deliver anything like this year, you know? I mean, it's like everything else. I mean, machine learning, all that stuff, it goes back to the '80s. It just keeps getting better, right? And these are amazing advancements, but I wouldn't rely on it today, right? And it's gonna be a journey. And again, garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm. Agreed. Yeah.
All right, I pontificated sufficiently. Look forward to talking to you next time. I don't know which one of the next podcasts we're gonna do in what particular order. It depends upon our guest panels. But again, coming up is what is a data warehouse. That is gonna be a two-part series, and the other one is about program management in the AEC, distinction between a project and a program, and what those specific and unique challenges are around program management as it relates to the industry. So thank you as always. Thank you, Shaylee, and talk to you guys next time.
Thank you.